to come and play and talk since the change of government?
Because I was never invited.
That's not true.
You invited me the last time, but I had a family problem that I could not be there.
Yes,
could not be there. But if I'm invited again, I shall come because I will. This will give me an opportunity or a medium to say to the public what my perception or my views are on a number of issues of national character.
Well, Lincoln, you have been a friend of Plain Talk. You've been my friend for many, many years.
Yeah.
We recall in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And the 80s. We go back. Now, as General Secretary of the Trade Union Congress, you presented a submission to the Minister of Finance as to what Labour, at least that element of Labour, would like to see in the budget. Would you like to tell us what some of the highlights of your proposals were?
Let me say to you that what has happened here with our presentation to this year budget, it was couched in we have worked a number of years to talk about the realization of what we call a green economy that the president today speaks about. The perception of labor of a green economy or understanding coming out from the international institution that the green economy is not about just making the place, planting trees and making the place green. It is supplemented when you talk about green economy, sustainable development, and the question of labor standards are important planks in the entire affair, in the realization of this. We are clean in Georgetown, but we have people who are cleaning without safety gears, protective clothing, and they are not being given the requisite medicines and what have you when carrying out this type of work. Green economy is about putting together a new economy where we take reusable energies and what have you.
You're talking in solar power, you're talking hydropower.
We're talking about we can and we can't just take the tires and burn them. We got to manage our garbage in a different way. We can't any longer running around the place and building septic tanks. Right?
So
what we did was to couch our proposal in the form of development, what we intend to see development.
When you say development within the framework of a green economy?
Yes.
What were some of your specific proposals?
Like, we talk about training for people in the renewable economy, in the green economy that we are talking about. We talk about return to respecting people's rights under the ILO core labor standards. Among those issues, you find the right to collective bargaining that the government has been talking about over a period of time. While they were in opposition, they said they would respect that right. But we have seen since then, we have seen two major lapses. One is the question of when the budget was announced last year, the question of the imposition of a wage increase. And then subsequently, we have seen the question of what you call it, the bonus that they talk about in December, that was imposed without even discussing with the unions. These things are in breach of the fundamentals in the creating of a green economy. And it is for that reason, rights and the rule of law, we play a lot of emphasis on that, and we spoke about the question of Gaisuku as another specific area.
You talk about free collective bargaining. This has been a sore point since 70s, which essentially means workers through their representatives negotiate with their employers for wages and salaries and other conditions.
Yes.
And you are suggesting that what has happened in the two cases on which the government has had to treat with its workers it has violated that principle.
Those tenants.
Do you expect that to happen again in this budget?
I am not. You cannot read.
Well,
When
maybe,
you think you cannot read the government in what it will
well,
do.
you met with Mr. Jordan, the finance minister.
Yes, we did.
Now, did you raise this question with him?
We raised the question in the document that we presented to the government. It says the return to free collective
What was
bargaining.
his response?
He commended the TUC on its presentation from the standpoint that he's saying, look here, this is a total departure from what he was expecting. He was expecting us going there to say
25%,
25% or increase that tax and what have you. We didn't do that. What we did was to concentrate on the question of development. Let me say this to you. You have the ILO, which is the oldest institution in the family of the United Nations, established in 1990. In 1966, this government, this country, when we became independent, the first two conventions that we ratified from the ILO was Convention 87, which speaks to freedom of association, and Convention 98, which speaks to the right to collective bargaining. That has been transformed into law. And-
It's actually recognized in the Constitution. For
Yes,
collective bargaining.
yes. I believe 147 speaks about it in
Yes.
the Constitution, and you find the Trade Union Recognition Law 23(1) speaks about collective bargaining too. So these are type of things that are in the law. It is not only their principles that we embrace, and what Labour's argument is that we need to respect the laws of the land. And the government has a greater responsibility.
Let me play devil's advocate here.
Well, you're always a devil, you know.
Thank you. The Minister of Finance is going to Parliament. He says, look, I want approval to pay salaries. I want approval for wage increases. Where do you expect him, if not through his budget? Where should he be making provision for salary increases?
Let me make this point. The minister can speak about making provision in his budget for increases in labor costs, but don't necessarily and he needs to sit with the trade unions after to say how this money is going to be apportioned. It is not the minister sitting down and say I'll give 20% across the board or 10% across the board. Because if those workers would have preferred this money to go to an education program or go to health program for them, it is those type of things that are important in the whole process of collective bargaining.
But you know, you accuse me of being the devil, yeah. I recall, and please confirm or if I'm correct, when the 50% increase to cabinet members was announced, you said you will be looking to the budget to reflect similar increases.
Yes, I didn't only say that. I went on to say that what the trade unions should be doing is using that as the barometer in negotiating wages and salaries for workers.
Is that a realistic position?
It is. It is.
You think, given the state of our finances, the government can raise all levels of workers by 50%?
I am not asking for it to be raised by 50%. I'm saying it must be used as the barometer in guiding the leaders in negotiating. The point
But
is
guide
that
us what? That's
yes, let me say
Go
to
on.
you, if you are elected to office, you are in executive, you have a greater responsibility to make sure that the equilibrium operates across the board. It is not the responsibility of those who are affected. It is your responsibility. And first and foremost, those who are affected have a responsibility to hold them to account.
Now, you said you took a different approach. You talked about the green economy. is that all you think the workers that your union and your trade union congress represent? Is that all they want, or they want to see increases in the threshold, perhaps the personal allowance, and higher salaries, maybe lowering of tax rates?
Let me say to you, we talk about health in this case. What we expect, we want what the health services ought to be, and each citizen ought to have an opportunity to appropriate health services. In 1926, when Critchlow and the Caribbean labor leaders met in Georgetown, right, on the first meeting of Caribbean labor leaders, the question of appropriate health services was discussed.
Explain that, please.
Right? They were talking of free health services.
Yes, which we have.
Right? They're talking of free health services, but not only free, it must be appropriate. It must meet the needs of what taking place inside the society. Right? And that happened in 1926. Are you telling me by now, we talk of all the resources that we have in this country, what a rich country, we can provide that for our people? Why a man, our concern is why a man who lives on the quarantine, has a kidney problem, has to come to Georgetown and pay at a private hospital for dialysis. That's a problem that we have in the society. That's a health that it becomes a regular in the society.
So the trade union congress made representation on the health services.
Yeah.
Education.
On the question, yes. And we talk about education. We talk about we didn't address the taxes because you had the tax commission at the same time. The committee was addressing taxes. So we felt that the most appropriate thing for us to do is to go in front of the tax committee and talk about it.
And what was your recommendation to the tax committee?
Our recommendation to the tax committee was not the question of thresholds, but what we said that there must be an opportunity or a system being put in place that those people who are outside of the net must be brought into the net. We talk about this whole question of these foreign companies that come into Guyana are given $1 billion, are being given tax concession to the tune of billions of dollars. Those monies, and the small man who works for $60,000 is expected to pay the taxes. They cannot be carrying the burden for those people who are even degrading the environment. Something has to be done. So those are the type of things we spoke of.
So those were your recommendations. What do you think, realistically, and given the sense of the discussion you had with the Minister of Finance, yes, it was a good presentation. It departed from the norm.
Yeah.
How much of what the TUC recommended do you expect to see in the budget come Friday?
I want to tell you something. I'm not optimistic. You know why I'm not optimistic? I have looked at issues that the government or the party, the APNU and the AFC, are championed while in opposition. And when they come in government, what they are doing is retreating from those positions. I believe that all those people are out of these tax concessions that are being given. I believe that they will continue to enjoy them, and those who come will be the same thing. I do not believe, unless they have shown me in this budget, at this juncture, I don't believe that they're going to change their position when it comes to the question of taxes.
How do you respond to the suggestion that if you don't give these companies, whether foreign companies or local companies, if you don't give them these concessions, they're not going to invest and they're not going to create jobs for Guyanese workers?
Let me say to you, this notion that is what people come and tell you that, look, we will create jobs, right? If we come in here and we mine bauxite, gold, diamond, or we do forestry or what. These are non-renewable resources. They're not coming here because they like us. They are coming here because they need what we have. You know, one of our problems is the weakness in our negotiation strategies. We are too quick to give it away. We are quick to give in. This question here is that let us do the maths. Let me give you one. It was only tonight I was talking with with two comrades, and they said to me, they said the matter at Rusal, that now is 6 years old, that the government will not address it because the government believe that Rusal will pack up and go. They have not done their research. They don't have to go very far. Ask Lance Carberry, who's right there with them, right? There's a plant that is the plant that Rusal carried the ore from Guyana. It has been designed specifically for the Guyana bauxite, and that was done since Bornham, since the era of Bornham, when they had the, you know, remember we had the ladder cars and all these things. But since then, and it is still it,
trade, yes,
right?
yes.
So, if you don't do your research, you will not be in a position to argue, right? And I'm going to tell you, bauxite in its current configuration, Guyana, did not fail because of want of market. It failed because we have not been able to produce. Because even the off-spec material that Guyana produces, even during the time when the state owned the industry, they were able to sell that.
Now, let's just summarize this segment. You expect recognition of the right to free collective bargaining. In other
Yes.
words, no imposition of a salary increase. Do you expect any provision in the budget for salary increase? And if so, what level as a percentage overall?
I will not project what. I have no expectation, in fact, of a percentage.
But you said that you should use 50% as
Yeah,
your barometer.
I am saying that I do not expect. I'm telling you what I am of the view that ought to be done when it comes to the question of collective bargaining. Will they honor it? I don't get the impression that I have no impression. Let me say to you, Chris, as I talk with comrades around the place, friends and associates, you know, every time the government does something and it borders on the breach, the violation of the law and the transgression of rights, there is one argument: they just come to power. Give them a chance. But they continue to do the same thing as we go along, right? I want to tell you something. Because people have over the time been defending these intransigents, there are operatives in the government who believe they can continue to do so and get away with it. And that brings me to this point. The danger, the group or individuals that are dangerous for this government are not members of the PPP or the PPP. It is those people who are supporters of the government who will sit down, right? Recognize that something is wrong and then use the point to say they just come to power. You didn't come to power to do something wrong. Or do what the PPP did. Like somebody tell me today that the PPP closed on 2 estates and it's only one, the APNU going over. It is not about the closing down of the estate. It is, if it's wrong under the PPP, it cannot be right under the APNU. And that's our problem.
But Lincoln, are you being too harsh? You would expect governments to make mistakes. I mean, there are lots of competing interests. Everybody has a different demand of a government. And are these errors, are these mistakes, or are these choosing one option over another, an option that might not be popular to a particular segment of the population?
No. I'm not harsh, but I'll tell you this. The law is there to protect the weak from being exploited by the strong and mighty. There are principles that guide engagements. There are laws to that guide engagement. When it comes to the trade union, the Constitution speaks about article in 147 about the right to collective bargaining.
Yes.
We spoke out against the imposition of the wages where they made brought the wages up to $50,000. We spoke out against it. Then you didn't stop there. You come along and you impose what we call a bonus. Let me tell you what. A lot of people come to tell me, even at the Ministry of Labor, some of the labor officers said to me, that is not all right. Let me tell you this. So long you have changed the working condition of somebody, it is not a privilege. It becomes a right. And that 50,000 that they give this year, by way of principle, the unions are in a strong position to argue that you got to give next year.
Let's turn to the NIS. Now, here it is. You're a director. You can't make excuses. You can't blame anybody. How is the NIS performing? There are lots of concerns about the NIS, that it's unresponsive, it's very slow, it deprives people of benefits. Is that a perception that is based on solid data?
That is not perception. The NIS is in a critical position. The NIS is like a patient, you understand me? A patient that is critical, that needs medicine. You've been writing about it for a number of years.
We were writing.
Right? I want to tell you this. The investments in the NIS are being addressed currently to see whether they are appropriate, they are very good, and so on. But
that includes that includes the CLICO investment.
We want the money. We want the government put the money back in the NIS, right? All the CLICO investment money, we want it back there. But let me tell you this. The NIS front line. The front line is the gathering, the inspectors going out there and work and bring new clients on board and so forth. One of NIS's problem is that the decisions are too politically centered. If they want to buy a vehicle, the board can approve it, but you gotta go to the minister. If you can't give people the tools, they will not be able to do the work.
All right.
Right?
But you see, you're gone blaming somebody else.
I am not blaming somebody. I'm telling you what is happening in a system.
But
just hold on. This is a system, Chris, where I am saying to you, we have an investment, the quality of investment and so forth. But we need money. We are getting more pensioners are coming on board.
But you're also getting more contributions.
No, the contributions are not reflective of to maintain the scheme based on the amount of people who are going.
But the problem, and I think I speak for a number of persons when I talk about the unresponsiveness, and that has nothing to do with investment and all that. Why can't that culture of, look, we must solve the problems of pensioners?
Let me tell you what, I can't agree with you more. Sitting down to talk with one day I had a demonstration. I asked a question and a demonstration was given to me. And for somebody to get a benefit, it had to go through 17 places before it can be approved. You understand what I'm talking about? What you have is an archaic system, a system that was established in the 60s or early 70s, at a time when you hadn't computers on the desk. right? And a man never used to walk around with a cell phone. What has to happen with NIS? It has to be modernized and have an operation that is properly. I don't understand if a man applied for something to the sickness benefit. Man, a month or two down the road.
When he gets back to work, then he gets his benefit.
Right? No, these are things should be done very fast. The whole question here is that the machinery, the organization itself, has to be.
But some of those matters are internal matters. They can be fixed by the directors. They can be fixed by a Lincoln Lewis sitting around the table with his fellow directors.
Yes, I want to tell you this. I have committed, a group of us on the admin committee has committed that, look here, this whole question here of the process that is being used in NIS must change. It got to change. It is not delivering for the people. And I tell you something. A man should not be able. When a man come one time and he can't get money, and you expect he come another time, he come fuming. The NIS is for people. It's not people for the NIS.
Well, I hope you get that culture.
But my problem is that you were a director and you walk away. You should have been there to help me.
Lincoln, an issue that has gained considerable prominence is this business of the Commission of Inquiry, the report of the Commission of Inquiry into the sugar industry, which is wider than Gaisuku. Give me your overall impressions of that report.
I will not make a comment on the content of the report, but I make a comment on how we operate with the report, or we operate with reports. You rightly made the point. Sugar is not Gaisuku. It's an industry. Gaisuku is only a company.
Yes.
Because you have a number of private cane farmers who are involved in supplying cane to Gaisuku. And they are involved in employing people, creating employment. I would have expected that, based on the importance the government paid to this report, when that report arrived, they would have taken it to the National Assembly.
It has been tabled in the National Assembly.
I am saying it would have been taken into the National Assembly. It would have been debated. And not only debated, it could have been set to a special select committee, right? That would have now stripped this report. And this assembly made some recommendation. They can talk with stakeholders and what have you. They have not done so. I had to write, I believe I wrote something, was during last weekend. I made a point that the constitution of this country, Article 13, says that anything that affects my economic, social, political, and cultural well-being, I have a right to be involved, to be consulted. The president speaks to the point of social cohesion and national unity. What his minister did, what the minister named Noel
Ola, the Minister of Agriculture.
Yes, he sent out a statement to say, at the end of the year, you bring Gaisuku to approve.
Not Gaisuku,
Wales Estate. What I'm saying, it was an opportunity, it's an ample opportunity to look at it differently. Region 3 in the national election was won by the PPP. You have an RDC there. In Wales and the surrounding communities, I'm sure there are NDCs. You have two unions in there representing the workers. You get the cane farmers. It was ample opportunity for them to pull these people together, all these groups together.
Apart from opportunity, there was an absolute duty, as you said.
Yeah.
Article 13 and Article 149.
Yeah, 149C, talk about it. They should have called these people in. And when you finish there, it is not a government decision. It is the decision of the region, its people, the workers, and everybody. That's the type of thing that we should do. I'm saying to you, it is not a question. It's a question here of how we're doing, how things are being done.
Is it not also true that under the Termination and Severance Pay Act, if you're planning to that kind of dislocation and reorganization, or termination, that you have to consult with the workers' representative?
Yes, sir. Yes, you have to do so. You have to do so.
So you point out a violation of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Is there a violation of the law as well?
Yes, they could. Yes, the
Termination.
termination of employment and severance pay law speaks to that.
But do you accept that Wales was in fact, or is in fact, a burden that Gaisuko cannot afford to carry?
It is.
So
It
what's wrong with closing it?
It is. The question is not closure. The point is, let me point out to you, Chris. Here, Chris. A man may rape a woman. We see do it. But I'll tell you something. The law don't say that we can kill him. They are going from the court, and the court can make the decision whether guilty or not and sentence him, right? If possible. What we have to do is to make sure that what we do is done within the confines of the law, the principles, the conventions, custom and practice. We got to do it. We can't talk about social cohesion and be alienating people. Social cohesion don't mean handing out ties and bicycle and them type of thing. Right? Social cohesion means bringing the people together.
Lincoln, do you think that the labor movement, given its broken state, you have the TUC on the one hand, you have FITUG on the other hand, they've been accused of playing political roles. Do you believe that they have contributed to the level of worker dissatisfaction and the manner in which workers are treated, not only by government but by the private sector? Do you accept some responsibility for that?
Let me answer you this way. The TUC and FITUG are quasi-political organization. They don't negotiate wages and salary. They deal with the question of influence, economic
And
position.
you're saying the TUC, you mentioned
Yes,
the TUC.
yeah.
So you're accepting that your organization...
We have a political role to play. 149C gives us that right.
No, but what is your principal role?
Right.
What would you say is your principal
My
role?
principal role is to influence the political, economic, social,
And cultural.
you understand me, decisions in this society.
Isn't it to
gonna tell you
ensure that
something,
your
and
workers...
yes, and we have a social responsibility to the communities within which we operate. Okay? The unions, the trade unions, the individual unions have that responsibility to organize, to look at things like organize new members, negotiate wages and salaries and better working conditions. What we do is to set the atmosphere, and we look at the government. We are the watchdog for this government. But let me say to you, Chris, in Suriname, there are 5 major national federations. Okay? In Trinidad, there are 2. In Barbados, there is 1, but all the unions are not in it. Okay? In Antigua, there is one, and all the unions are not in it. In United States, you still have Change to Win and the AFL-CIO. You have in Canada, you have the CLC, but a number of other unions are not in the CLC.
But
So this point here, where we're arguing about everybody being in the same federation, the only thing, you know what binds us? The question of rights, advancing rights, okay, and protecting the rule of law.
so you're not upset that the worker movement, like Labor Day, one you march and then one gone to the National
No,
Park,
I am not upset.
and one gone to the.
I'm not
somewhere else.
upset. You know why? Because I am a person who believes in the fundamental principles. The ILO Convention 87 speaks about freedom of association.
That's correct.
And
but-
if you feel
but
about
the-
freedom of association, you have a right to associate or not to associate.
But one of the words we've used on several occasions this evening is collective.
Yeah.
Do you see greater strength in unity and the collective movement as opposed to, if not divided, at least separated? type of
Collective bargaining takes place with the unions. A union that
But
has bargaining.
I know, but I'm using it in the broader sense now,
Yeah. Let me say.
in terms of the unity sense.
Yeah, I see collective bargaining in the sense of principles. If one union A, right, is prepared to turn a Nelson's eye on a transgression by the government, and Union B bring it to your attention, and that union does nothing, then collective bargaining is not taking place. Okay? Provide if we are embracing the same principles, we can be in different rooms at different time, but we arguing the same things. Collective bargaining is about principle. It's not about only us being together physically.
Now, this year, Guyana marks its 50th anniversary of independence. What progress and what setbacks have we had in the labor movement, and is the trajectory upward and favorable?
Let me say to you, independence, I am proud to see where we have come from and where we are now. Independence is a continuous process of moving us to a point where we can consider independence not only by an act, but by the spirit and intent. We have fought slavery. We have fought indentureship. We have fought colonialism. Let me say to you, the trade union movement has done a tremendous job in
We
making this
fought
happen.
we fought colonialism. We fought all of these things. We took bauxite. We took sugar. And let me talk about bauxite. And then you hand it right back.
Yeah.
So, is there a form of economic colonialism as opposed
Well,
to the political
I
colonialism
am
we have?
coming to tell you that what we have done is to destroy, to some extent, we have stymied the vision of Critchlow, Ayub Eden, right?
Joseph
JP Lashman Singh, Polydor, and those men, right? Because those were the people who fought and for internal self-government. When these big guys were fighting, Burnham and Jagan were not around. Think about it. They were not around. They come in the late 40s, right? These men are fighting since in the 20s coming through on this issue, right? It is still something. There are some things that we can fight over. We have our national anthem. And I'm going to tell you something. It is no proclamation. The colonials didn't like us and give us independence. We fought for it. Both you and me and all of us in this society are standing on the shoulders of those people who fought. And I'm seeing it that when we turn and we say that the private sector or the foreign sector will be the engine of growth, I believe that those people who are pronouncing do not understand what independence means. Independence means just carrying up your own flag. It means economic liberation.
Have we had economic liberation?
Not yet.
Are we moving towards it? And if you would, and I would ask you, show me the signs that we are.
I will not say that we are moving towards it. I am saying that we need to develop programs that can take us to that. And I'm not seeing those programs. I want to tell you this, the question, the point that we are, what is being shown to me by the policy makers, it is a neoliberal program that puts the masses at the sideline and a 1 or 2% at the top.
And you call that progress?
I am saying to you, we have made political progress. I said the economic independence has to come.
What does political progress mean if it doesn't carry with it economic and social progress?
What it means, we have been able to stand up and put our own anthem in place, our flag in place. The Queen don't normally say to us what we must do. We have been able to do those things. This is a continuous process. We have got the political one. What we have to do now is to work for the economic one.
You mentioned a number of names just now. Is Lewis going to be in that pantheon in this post 50 years? He going to be the modern day one of the Polydor, perhaps?
I just want to tell you this. I am concerned about how history writes me.
Our history?
How history writes me and my legacy, right?
You're too young to be thinking of legacy, Lincoln.
Yes, I am concerned. That's the reason why I will not stand by and allow even who I may consider my friends to transgress the laws, to violate the laws and transgress rights. I will not allow them to go with it.
So as we're in our 50th anniversary, you said yes, flag, anthem, Queenie gone.
Yeah.
Is it time to celebrate,
We have
or is it time to reflect?
I am saying it. In reflecting, you need to celebrate. You need to celebrate, even if you have made one step over the line. It's the grit and determination. It is this celebration. It is this feeling that will drive the people along.
But why hasn't it driven the people along so far?
Because
Because 50 is just a number.
Just let me say to you this, Chris. Mr. Granger has been saying something about education. I don't believe that a lot of the operatives understand the message he was sending. Education is not only in the school, but education is in every place.
Mhm.
What people do not understand is the history and the path that we have traveled, and seek to
But
build on that.
But every independent country has gone that route. But they've gone further.
Because we have not done. Let me tell you what, we give talk about free education from nursery to university, and who take it away? Who cut it out? The greatest socialists in this country. Who tell me about socialism? Who socialize me? Took that away. I am saying to you. Let me say to you. You know, let me just take you back a minute. When we were talking with Mr. Jordan, you know what the point we make to them? We say here's something. Set up a place where we can do some research. We're talking about oil and all these things that we go get around the place. Take a couple $1 billion and put about 250, 300 people in a building, and let us start to research. We have to. Our research base in this society not only on people, but on physical things that are around. And the poor, the IST, check what work it has done. I am so proud this morning when I pick up the paper and I
About
see
the American,
that,
the guy, this woman.
yes,
Fox?
Don Fox, right?
Yes, excellent. Yes.
You know, I am proud to know that it's somebody that I know. You understand me,
Except that she does. Yeah.
right? And the point is that, you know, that's the type of thing that we want to hear about.
You mentioned university. You feel we should go back to free university education?
Yes, I feel so.
How is it going to be financed?
How it is going to be financed? There's a state institution. There is state finance it. If they can find, let me just tell you a few things. You know, we cannot start from how it will be financed. We have to think about it. If we don't do it, what is going to happen? That university has baggage there, a lot of money, a lot of liability. They got to write it off. We're finding, let me show you this. We're finding must be about 12 to 14 billion this year for Gaisoko. Gaisoko produce sugar. The sales are around 20 billion. The wage bill is around 20 billion. But we said to the minister, take 2.5 billion. You're talking about, Mr. Grange, you're talking about the village economy. We said take 2.5 billion. Right? Identify 80 villages on the coast and give them 16 million each. Let people go back to, if you want to make sugar cake, and the sugar cake can sell in Germany or sell some or thing or so on, let it go back to the cottage industry. We can find jobs there for some people, right? Take 0.5, take half a billion, carry to region 10, right? A region that see how we can kickstart. We are saying that we get all the answers, but I tell you something, we have ideas, and we can only change this thing if we get ideas. You're going to take that 16 billion, 12 or 16 billion, and you know what is going to happen? You're going to hand it to Gaisoko. You're going to get it back, right? But when you give the 2 billion to the villages, then when you don't give that 2 billion to the villages, is that you might get back all, but you will get some jobs, and you'll get some people who can make a dollar.
I like your optimism on this question of independence. And the progress that we've made. And yes, progress is not a linear development. It's jagged. You get troughs and valleys. Politically, at the level of cohesion, are we better off now internally? We forget that we no longer have external masters, which is important. Are we better off as a society, or are we more polarized now?
We are better off by getting opportunity to make the decision. But the polarization continues because we are not prepared to use the instruments that guides us.
One of the big areas of change that the APNU plus AFC had committed to was constitutional reform.
Yeah.
Give me a view on constitutional reform.
Let me tell you, Chris. I believe you hear me on this before, but let me tell you this. I ain't supporting no constitutional reform. You know why I ain't supporting it? Because if the simple things in the constitution and the laws, these men who are in elected offices not prepared to respect, you telling me change it to make them respect it?
But
I thought you were saying, for instance, I just referred to you about Article 13. Here's something. It was under Jack Diop presidency that was in it. That going the constitution. Right? Yes.
No, it was there before.
No,
I think it was Article 11. It was Article 11,
I am saying to you that nobody, be the PPP or the APNU or the AFC, has come up with one formula or a law and take it to the National Assembly. The last, even the National Assembly saying, even the things say, The thing say, the Constitution says very clear that look, any member of Parliament can take a motion or a law to the National Assembly. None of them have taken it. All they're telling you is that they tell you about unity and this and that every time in the election. Men and women say they don't want to do anything.
But is that a fault? Look, politicians by their nature have certain traits. Is it a fault of civil society, of people like you, of people like me, people like leaders of the private sector, not taking some of these violations to the court and say, look, court, you are the guardian of the Constitution. Here is a politician or a government violating the Constitution. Exercise your authority.
You believe every time I get a case or so, I can come to Chris Ram and ask him, man, do this thing for gratis? You believe that is what you want to tell me? The lawyer's not going to take it. I'm going to tell you something. I've spoken to many of them about matters challenging. Let me tell you something. The only
it used to happen before.
Yes, but I want to tell you something. I asked you and Nigel Hughes. Or can I always go to you and Nigel Hughes and ask Ali? There are other lawyers out there. They don't want to do anything for it. Let me frighten this thing. Right? I am saying to you, yes, you are right. We got to hold the politicians accountable.
And that's the ultimate,
but I say to
action.
you, I don't buy the argument that by nature politicians are not honest men and women.
No, it's not a question of honesty. It's a question of this. Look, they have power in their hands. They exercise that power for their own.
But the power comes from the people, and politics is about people and people's development. That's a fundamental principle, and that is what the politicians need to do. You know what? If you are going to change, I'm going to tell you this: amend this constitution. You see how the local government get the PR system.
Mm-hmm.
You can have that and get the independence. You know why? When the independents are there, then it reaches to the point where they can be struck off.
But you know, all it requires is a simple change to the law saying, because as you know, you have 40 national top-up, you have 25 regional seats. If you say that, look, each of those 25 is open to individuals, that helps to address that problem.
Yes. But I'll tell you something,
Is that why we need constitution?
Yes, but a number of areas that people trying to call you to tell you. Let me tell you something, I've heard politicians talk about this constitution. And I want to tell you something, I am confident that the thing that they're talking about didn't exist inside here and they've never read it. Right? That is where we are.
Lincoln, time has run out on us. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And as you know, the invitation is always open. I hope to have you back soon. Viewers, I'm hoping that in the next week we will be discussing the budget and analyzing it with some economists and other persons who take a social and a human drawing from the budget rather than just financial data. So until then, operators, viewers, thank you, good night, and Lincoln, I'll see you again. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, my brother. Be good.